Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. This is your New Year's Eve episode podcast, which means you should be sitting back at home right now, maybe opening a bottle of champagne or getting ready to. Yeah. There won't be any New York City crowds or so you'll be at home with your family most likely. I don't think they'll, so this is a great time to listen to that podcast. And
confetti raining down. Request for Reese. Confetti raining down.
This is a... God, what a time to reflect, right? I mean, it's a time to reflect. I want to say, first of all, one thing that's happened in 2020 that I want to say I'm thankful for, because this is a great time to reflect, is my man Reese, right? Reese is behind the camera. Nobody gets to see him. He hides out. But if it's not for him, like, none of this would happen. And you and I wouldn't be able to look the way we look or do anything.
You guys definitely wouldn't get these on Tuesday, Thursday mornings.
Hey, remember, now, I have to tell you guys that when the start of the podcast happened, so what I would do is I would go in a room, which we had one rickety camera, and this is what happens when people don't realize. And we had a small little business condo, and we had this little rickety camera. And I don't even know what we used for lights. Maybe a flashlight or something. I don't know. We had like
yellow
cheap
lights.
Yeah, we had bad lighting. Oh yeah, remember, because we couldn't stop being orange. We didn't know until somebody who knew lighting was like, "Oh my gosh, you shouldn't use that color bulb or whatever." We didn't know.
Or your camera settings were
or whatever.
Set to that.
And then I would do the video, and then I'd get it to Matthew, and Matthew would use iMovie.
Yeah.
We'd try to chop it up, and then I would
Reduce
try to
background noise.
I mean, it would take. People don't realize what it takes to do a podcast, and they go, well, I'll just do well, I'm just saying right now. Then I had to upload it. And by the way, this is trying to run the company and doing everything else we were doing. Yeah. And it was like, and then Reese came to our lives and made all this magic happen. He had he's got 3 cameras in here. We're in a big studio now. So one of the things I want to say is thank you to my man Reese, because if it wasn't for Reese, this would not look like this. It would not be on YouTube, and you guys would look at it. You would look at it and be like, "Yeah,
I'm on episode 70 right now."
You would be. I don't even know if they'd be that far.
We would. We would have shot all the episodes. Just you and I would not have uploaded them to the system. Like, we ain't got time for that.
So just to give you an idea of Reese's trajectory. Okay, so before Reese got here, I think we were up to episode 24.
Yeah.
And now we're at 107 or something, or 111.
112.
So we would be literally. So those of you who we see the numbers go up every week. So those of you who see the numbers going up because we just got I just had a doctor message me yesterday and was like, "Thank you for the podcast. It gets me going for every week." And I just want to let you know who I'm talking to, because you listen to the podcast every week. This is what he said. I want to just read this really quick. He says, "Thank you for what you're doing. Your podcasts are motivating and getting me excited about what I'm doing." Right? So that goes to Reese. Because I will tell you, you would not be getting these podcasts if it wasn't for Reese. So I do want to say that, because I think it's ultimately what a time to reflect, and I think it's a great time to reflect on team and the people that allow us to look good and allow us to support and serve. And sometimes what ends up happening in organizations is people get the credit for. There's people, the doctor gets the credit, or business owners or CEOs get the credit, but ultimately speaking, it's all those people that are fine being behind the scenes that make things happen. In fact, I'd have Reese come on camera. He doesn't want to. He's shaking his head. He's like, I don't want to be
no.
But there's so many people behind the scenes in our lives and in our organizations that make all the difference and make things like this happen. So I'll start the podcast by saying thank you to my man Reese, because that's killer, and that's why this podcast happens every week.
We're gonna get a little applause in the background, the animation. So you're gonna get an animation.
We walk in and there's headphones and mics and lighting, and he's got a new lighting kit every week, and he's got new ideas, and he's got a big budget for me, and so thank you, Reese, for what you do. What's yours, Matthew?
I want to say, well, you kind of stole mine a little bit, but I will go to another team member that works with us, with Katie.
She'll be watching this one. Yeah.
Katie will be watching this. And Katie, as you guys know, if you've seen anything on social media or seen any kind of article Eric's, written, she's a copywriter, and she helps edit those things. So Eric will write up this huge article and send it to her and be like, hey, can you make sure everything looks good, sounds good, and everything. And she literally has taken so much off of my plate from that standpoint, because I would sit there and try to type things away, and I'd be like, okay, this is going to take forever. So just Katie alone is what I am super thankful for 2020, because she is a rock star. She is crushing it, and I told her when she first started with Tower Leadership, you get to be the voice of Tower Leadership.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to a doctor recently, and he was like, man, your social media stuff, what company are you paying to do it? It looks so good. And I'm like, that's Katie and Fran. I've got I don't even know what they're putting out. Like, I don't, they just run with it. And isn't that true? Like, we have people in our lives that, that do that. We're so blessed to have those people. Like Katie will listen to something and write an article based on what I said and run it by me, but she's the voice. She really is. She's watched every video we've ever done. I mean, she knows it in and out, and so she knows how to. It's like Saturday Night Live where they mimic somebody, right? Like she knows how to mimic what I would say next.
Yeah, she's writing show notes,
and so she knows, right? What would Eric say here? Yeah, and so right. So it's people like Katie, it's people like Reese, it's people like Fran, it's the people behind the scenes that are making things happen, and for the production of this or anything else in our lives. So I mean, it's a great question, like, as we look at a new year, but just stopping, I don't think, this podcast is all about moving forward, but I think this is a great podcast, and it can be a short podcast, but I think it's a podcast about, like, what are you thankful for this year? Yeah. Like, what blessings do you have this year? Mm-hmm. Not specifically say, like, who in your life. I'm thankful for you, Matthew.
Thankful for you, too. We've had fun.
One of the things that Matthew's so charismatic and as smart as can be as well, and I said, one day I was like, I'd love to have you on the podcast with me because, first of all, I was lonely. But second of all, I was like, look, I just, you got such great insights and great, we have great banter and what a great person to have on the podcast. So I want to thank you for joining me this year, which that was a great move. I'm really happy to have you here. I love the graphics, the cartoons. Yeah. Now we have cartoons on the. Yeah. Fran created cartoons of us, so we have cartoon images.
Fran is
a
rock star.
Right?
We don't even have to tell her. We're thankful for her.
Matthew said to me there, and he goes, "Did you see our cartoons online?" And, like, she just drew us into cartoons and put it online, right? And
I was like, man, I look good.
And outside of the Florida Gators throwing a shoe across the field and destroying our national title hopes, it's been a very
great year. This weekend, we can just forget about this weekend.
That's right. We don't even need to watch anymore, right? I mean, because at University of Florida, we just throw shoes when we get upset.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know.
It's great. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
So the college football fans out there are rolling right now. And the ones that are not really getting it.
Shoe you later. That's basically what people were saying. Shoe you later.
So those of you who don't know, the Gators basically lost a very important game because one of the players got mad and chunked his shoe across the field.
He was excited. He wasn't even mad. He made a great play.
And he was excited.
He stole the shoe off him and threw it into the field. And they threw a penalty. It was great.
So what don't do in a dental office is throw shoes across the dental office.
Celebrate in different ways. Celebrate with your team in other ways than throwing shoes.
What else are we thankful for, Matthew?
Let's see. From a personal standpoint, I have a nephew, and he has been awesome. Yeah. So I've gotten to see him grow up, and he's at the point where he sees me now, and he smiles, and he runs over and tries to get me to pick him up. So I really like that little dude. He's awesome. That's what I'm thankful for, is getting to see him grow. He gets to come into the office sometimes. He is a special place in my heart, that little guy.
Now, the question is, what sport is he going to start first?
I think they're going to push him into golf, which we're both okay with. We're like, yep, get into golf. But apparently he's been kicking a little ball around, and Tim looks at him and goes, what? What's going on here? Like, he'll play with it like Pele. He's like, guess I'm going to have to learn soccer.
It's interesting. We don't control I thought when my son was born, I was like, I'm an idealist. So I was like, okay, he'll want to play golf. And I'm 13 years old. Finally I took him out. He'll go hit golf balls with me sometimes, but I was like, let's go get you a set of clubs. And he was like, nah, I'm good. I was like,
What do you mean?
Man, I would have killed for my dad to say, let's go get, I was like, no, let's go get you a set of golf clubs. Like, I was super, like, it's all about me, right? In that moment, I'm like, let's go get some golf. And he was like, nah, I'm good. Oh, well, I will tell you, recently I said to him, I said, let's go shoot shotguns. Let's go shoot sporting clays. And he was like, man, let's go.
Yeah.
Right? And that was like, I was like.
When you sent me that picture, I didn't even know that was Grant. I was like, I've known Grant for a while. I'm like, that doesn't look like Grant. He got curly hair. He's tall. I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
what is going on?
I mean, it's hilarious now. I went to go get his haircut the other day and he was like, Dad, do not tell her what I want. I'll tell her what I want. I was like, okay, never mind.
You got it.
So
He's like, I want a number 2 all around.
I just pay the bill. You know,
I just want
guess,
number 2.
I guess that's what happens, right? And then ultimately, you don't know. You know, he's become an amazing wrestler, and that's what he loves to do, and his passion is wrestling, which was my passion, which doesn't surprise me. And so, you know, you never know. You know, but I think that we have so many blessings. I'm thankful for the Tower team, and I'm thankful, honestly, for everyone who listens to this podcast. You know, one of the things I'd love to have a graphic. And for people just to see what happened to the numbers of Dental Wealth Podcast in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And it's insane. The numbers are literally, I mean, we like 10 times the podcast this year. And the numbers just went through the roof. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because they've went up like every month. Some people are moving up to online watching and you know, but so many people listen to the podcast. And so when you're passionate about something, you know, it's one of those things when you get passionate about something, and you can be passionate and nobody pay attention, right? It's that's what someone said. I've said to Dennis before, like, you can be the best dentist in the world, but no one ever shows up in your chair. It don't really matter, right? I think ultimately speaking, I can be passionate all I want, but if no one listens to the podcast and no one shows up, then it doesn't really matter, right? And so when people show up, it tells me, Eric, you're on the right path. You know, I mean, you're pouring your passion into conversations around helping and serving others. And I think that for me, you know, all of you listening to this podcast are a blessing to me and a blessing in my life. And, you know, it gets me out of bed every morning because it gets me excited about the potential of people. And, you know, you're going to attract the people who truly want to grow and want to build something. And ultimately, you know, Matthew, you've been here since day one and or close to it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe day 12 or something, right? And Matthew jokes. He says, I was employee number 1, right? so
not a joke.
So Matthew's been here. You know, he's seen Tower leadership grow substantially, and I'm thankful for you, brother, and I'm thankful for you for all that you do for this organization and for these doctors. And, you know, for those of you listening who are like, look, I'd love to just find out more about what they do or their passion, call Matthew up.
Yeah.
Just like, he's not going to try to sell you anything. Just have a conversation with him and say, look, man, this is what I'm going through. This is what's going on in my life. What should I do? And you're a great resource for that. I mean, absolutely the guy to call and just say, look, what should I do here? And
that's what I'm looking forward to most in 2021 is every single, like, at the new year, it's like, okay, I get to help a new group of doctors or a new group of conversations I'm going to have, because I never really know what kind of conversation I have. They all kind of typically go about the same way, but there's been some crazy ones. There have been some really unexpected ones. So that's what I'm looking forward to most in 2021 is that next conversation. Who else am I going to be able to talk to and then help out? Because, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen people change. I've seen businesses change, and me being able to be like the front person on that to introduce them to what they can do is awesome. And that's what motivates me for the day. And that's why I wanted to ask you, what are you looking forward to most in 2021? It could be personal or business. What is Eric Morin looking forward to most in 2021?
I am rounding out this goal I created, so I'm not willing to share this goal yet, but I will tell you this much. What I've done for myself is create one of the biggest goals of my entire life, and it is getting me out of bed in the morning and getting me excited. And I'm putting a little polish on that goal, but then that goal becomes an affirmation, right? I will do this in this year, which that's why I don't love the word goal, because it's like it needs to become an I must do this year. And so what I'm looking forward to doing is I think you saying one of the things we saw in 2020 is the sheer volume is revenue coming in from our new clients is raising dramatically. I mean, we have a gentleman right now in our office who's very large practice. We've got a lot of doctors coming in that are very large practices, and that doesn't deter, by the way, anyone who's struggling. I mean, come on in, but we can coach those people up, and we start to see how we can help those people. What I would say is, like, because we've seen it all, but I would say for me, what I'm taking out of going in the future, because I'm excited about our team. I'm excited about our growth as a company. I'm excited about the people we get to serve in the next year. I'm excited. You're right. I mean, every year there's a new group of doctors, and we retain doctors, but I'm talking about just a new people we didn't know before come in. And that's an exciting time, right? We already got a bunch of people coming to our March foundation. So we've already got a bunch of doctors signed up now, and it's December, right? Yeah. And we're already like starting to get to, because we cap that thing out at a certain amount of doctors. So like that's exciting to me. The fact that we're like getting to the point of being sold out on a March event in December is a blessing to me. And like that feels good about the work we're doing. So I'm excited about serving more people. I'm excited about watching this team grow and serve more people. And then I'm excited about some big, hairy, audacious goals that I want to create. And I know that's an older term utilized typically in the early 2000s, but I still think it's relevant today, which is that companies and organizations and individuals need to set gigantic goals for themselves, and goals that will excite you and get you out of bed in the morning. And when you do that, it changes everything in your life. And when you start to realize, one of the things I work with doctors on doing is saying, look, once you set that goal, you just simply create a T-grid and say closer or further. Yeah. And does this get me closer or further? And so one of the reasons I said, I think it was the last podcast, that I don't drink alcohol is because of the same reason, because I don't want to lose a day. A day in my life is a very valuable point in time. Now, maybe when I'm 68 years old, sit on a beach, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a day. I tell people, I joke, I say I'm on the Will Smith plan. Yeah. Will Smith didn't drink for a decade and made a gazillion movies. For me, it's like I don't ever want to miss a day. My kids are young. I don't want to miss a day with my kids. Our team is growing. I don't want to miss a day with our team. I don't want to ever walk in here without being lit up to see our team. And I look at the doctors that we're serving and the families we serve, because it is families that we're serving, and it excites me for that. So I could keep going on. I mean, I just think the opportunity to serve people and take care of people is my life's mission. And it's all I want to do in this world. And I think to get to do that, I tell people, I'm living my dream. Yeah. I'm already living my dream. This is my dream come true, is to be able to serve, when we see tears, when we see laughter, when we see joy, when we see breakthroughs, that's freaking what it's all about. And so the fact that we get to do that for a living, Matthew, the fact that that's our job is a change. We're not selling vacuum cleaners over here, right? We're not coming door to door and selling you the steak knives, right? Cutco knives. And I'm not knocking on it, by the way. Maybe someone's.
I love Cutco knives.
I'm not knocking it. I'm saying the work we do at Tower Leadership is impactful, and what a blessing to be part of that. So, those are kind of my thoughts on going into it, and and sharing those goals. I think we have a team meeting coming up, a 3-day team meeting coming up. I'm so excited about that. I've been thinking night and day about that meeting. So if you're not taking time to sit down with your team and reestablish and reset priorities and goals and drive and motivations, then you need to be doing that. I mean, when are you going to do it? June? I mean, there's never time. Like, one of the good things about the end of the year, dental end of the year, because people are trying to use their insurance, a little tough. Yeah. But beginning, first week of January, there's what we call inert time, right? People aren't really moving out of their house just yet. Yeah, people are kind of right. It's what we call inert time, or we call that low opportunity cost time. Yeah. So sometimes there's low opportunity cost time and people say, well, I don't want to shut down for a day. Why not? Yeah. Why not? Well, trust me, you'll make way more in the long run if you just shut down and get focused. So I'm excited about our team focusing. And doing that. So all of those reasons and more, I'm excited for this year. I mean,
2021.
It's such a blessing. So thank you guys for listening to this podcast. Thank you for being here this year. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for sharing with your friends, which you've done. Thank you for sharing with your partners. Thank you for talking up the podcast. Thank you for allowing us to be the fastest growing podcast in dentistry right now. And thank you for everything you guys do. So I'm excited. It's going to be an awesome year, man.
One day.
So happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. Have a very, very happy new year. And listen, I will say this too as I wrap this show up. You might be listening to this episode. Maybe it was March 22nd.
Yeah.
And you're listening to this episode and you got through it even though the year's over, or we're in the new year. Because ultimately speaking, people come into the podcast different times and you tell people to go listen to podcasts. And so what I would tell people is like, the idea that one rock goes around another rock and then that becomes the time to change is foolish. And it's foolhardy and it's simple minds. The truth is every day is a day to start over again. Every moment is a moment to start over again. When can you change your life? In a flippin' moment. And so I would say, like, doesn't matter when you're listening to this, it's time. It's time to make the change that you've been holding off on. So happy new year, everybody. Happy new year to you, Matthew.
Confetti.
Reese, happy new year, my friend. We'll see you guys in 2021.